Hey folks, welcome everybody. Robin-Ann Rossignol up there at the top, right up above me. Hi Robin, our guest tonight. Thanks Robin. Beth and her kneecap over there in the upper right, and Cindy Baldwin on the bottom right. Yep. Beth is able to move around braceless now, so progress is being made. Yay for that.
Yeah. And
Yep.
no marathons though.
Can't go out and do 26, huh? Okay.
No, not today. Not
All
today.
right. That's the way you're going to be. So tonight we got a nice string of photos from Robin to look at. These are going to be fun. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Sunday is our guest is Leslie Rinchen Wangmo, and this is Leslie's book, and it is out August 23rd, I believe it was. You're going to want to buy this and read it. It is a tremendous book and a tremendous story. And what she does is, I will show, I have pictures at the ready here. So what Leslie does is
Wow.
these tankas. They're Thangkas are the designs, and that's what she does. And the story about how she came to get trained by Tibetan people to do these is amazing. And we talk about all that on Sunday, and then, but we just barely touched the book. There's so much to talk about. This book is fantastic, but there's another one. That's all done pieces of cloth. There's no ground cloth. It's all sewed together, overlapping, and there's a process to it, as you can imagine. But it's just stunning stuff. I can't.
Yeah.
That picture's not big enough to blow up. But when she's with, so Sunday she's our guest. Here, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to put us all on the screen here. So Sunday, Leslie is our guest, and Threads of Awakening is her book. You can pre-order it, and Beth and I both read it, and I'm telling you, it is. I mean, Murder and Mayhem is my kind of book to read, and I usually don't get sucked into these. This one, I was going to skim the second half, and I ended up reading every stinking word of it because it's really good. It's fascinating what she's done. Sunday she'll be our guest, and then next Wednesday she will be here with us live. And so we're going to get to look at in some detail. I'm pointing over to my iPad where the thing is shown over there. We're going to get to look at in some detail her work. And then she's also going to demonstrate some of the techniques. One of the techniques is using horsehair and wrapping it in silk, and then they couch it down on the edge of each of these pieces. And so she's going to show us how that's done, which I can't even imagine what that's like. So that'll be next Wednesday. So we're going to have that 1-2 thing where we have a guest and then have her live on Wednesday. And so you'll be able to ask her questions and so on and so forth. And so that's next week on Sunday and Wednesday is Leslie Rinchen Wangmo. And order this book. I'm telling you, you're going to enjoy it. You really are. I think Beth agrees. Beth hated it.
Excellent.
Beth just hated it.
No, I read the whole thing and it was wonderful. And I've actually, my sister doesn't watch this, so I can say this. I'm going to get her a copy because I know she will enjoy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was excellent. I highly recommend it.
Tremendous story. Tremendous story.
And you learn a lot. You learn so much. It's just, yeah. I can't wait to talk to her too live on Wednesday. That'll be fun.
Yeah, she's great. Cool thing happened a couple days after we recorded with her. Helen Bagnall wrote to me, and I appreciate when people send suggestions for guests because it's very helpful, and I contact all of them. I just don't hear from very many of them. People are just nervous about it, don't want to do it. I don't know what the deal is, but so about, I don't know, 3-4 out of 10 actually respond to me. Helen Bagnall wrote and said, you really need to get Leslie Rinchen Wangmo. She has a new book coming out, and she has a tremendous story. You need to get her. So I was able to write back and say, Sunday, join us. We got you.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. Yep, that was pretty cool. Off topic, one thing I've tripped over on the YouTube. Ocean Conservation Namibia, as in over on the other side of the world. Ocean Conservation Namibia. It's a team of guys who put out, there's a boatload of videos, but one of the, I'm sure they have other parts to their job, but one of the things, and the thing they film is freeing seals, I think Cape fur seals, but anyway, freeing seals from all manner of fishing line and fishing net, and it's just amazing the work they do, and I'm sure rather dangerous. But Ocean Conservation Namibia is worth watching. It will hook you in to the point where I think I'm going to send them some money to support them. And it'll also depress you to see how much trash must be in the ocean if these seals are just getting, I mean, they're getting wrapped up around their necks, and the fishing line is just, you know, some of it's nasty. But these guys are just doing amazing work. It's just heartwarming to see, and to see those seals get cut free and go bounding off into the ocean. And yeah, so I suggest check that out, Ocean Conservation Namibia. It's if you want to feel uplifted about people doing good things, those guys are doing good things over there in Namibia. It's really cool. Yep. So remember, Mystery at Saint-Tropez, we're trying to get started on that. GayandRogers.com is where you go to get the chart, and then Needle in a Haystack, needlestack.com is where you go to get your kits. And we were talking a little bit beforehand, and Kathy seems to be running into some issues with threads as hard as she tried to make sure that she had everything and lined up. So be patient, you know, it's the usual thing, be patient. I placed my order a couple days ago, and but anyway, we are going to get started on that. We'll be doing some videos. If you already have your stuff and are getting started and have trouble, need some help, let us know, and we will be happy to help you. But that is ongoing. GayandRogers.com, upper right-hand corner, you'll see the Fiber Talk logo and links to the page where that's at, and you'll be able to get all the information. So check that out. All right, that's all I got for announcements. That's it. So Robin, we have Robin now. Oh, I did the thing. So all right, Robin. So tell us, you've been stitching for what, 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
Probably since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
My first memory of stitching was sitting in the National Honor Society meeting doing petty point.
That's your first.
So
petty
that
point?
would have been high school.
Petty point is your start? Oh, jeez.
My mother got a kit to do petty point, and then you mounted it over a form and put it in a pin back, a jewelry finding. And I absconded with it. That's what I was doing.
Hey, and you haven't stopped since, huh?
Took a few breaks here and there, but really came back to it in of all times, graduate school.
Okay. Okay.
While working full time.
Because you had nothing better to do, right?
Got
That's
bored.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh man. Yeah. So we're going to see, you sent us, boy, we've got a string of different techniques and all kinds of things. So thanks for putting them all together. So we might as well just start. I'm going to switch over. And one of the things we talked about was this Cindy, what is this name of this? I didn't write it down.
Stars for a New Millennium.
Yeah, Stars for a New Millennium. This is Cindy's mother, Dee, who was with us last week. This is the one she did. And remember, we talked about having all three. Well, we have all three, Dee's, Cindy's, and Robin's. So we saw this last week. This was Dee's. And then here's Cindy's.
It's just so beautiful.
Thank you.
It really is.
It's fun to do.
You know, the difference. I love when we can do these in the different colorways and the different way that they look. It's every one of them. Yeah, it's beautiful. And now here's Robin's.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So,
My overdyed
Robin,
was
Yeah. As I was going to ask you, what was your overdyed?
It's Piccadilly Circus. It's Thread Gatherers Piccadilly Circus, and it's a color she no longer makes.
Darn it.
And I actually found 2 more skeins of it in my stash recently and used it for 2 other projects.
She likes it.
What colors did it have in it then?
Almost the rainbow. The only thing it's missing is yellow. There's no yellow. There was a lot of orange and red, orange, green, turquoise. There was in my skein, there was a little bit of true green, true blue, but not enough for me to focus on. So that's why it's the turquoise, the lavenders, the screaming orange, and the olive greens. Well, he said you need a poison color. So that's my poison color.
That's really nice. Yeah, here, this really shows. I think it was Jennifer was asking last week when we were looking at D's about how the threads here in the grid lines, how just and pointing out how the different angles change how the light reflects and how that looks.
Yeah, that's all with impressions.
Uh-huh.
So that inner my olive green border, that's all impressions, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And the other greens in the 4-pointed star, that's Medici. That's when you could still get it.
Okay.
And this was a neat piece because this was a piece where the shop in Cedar Rapids hadn't been open very long. And I remember Cindy and I had these patterns. I don't remember where we picked them up. But I remember walking into the shop and saying to the shop owner at the time, it was a friend, we want to do this and we want to do it through the shop. And off we went. There were at least 13 of us.
Oh my. Everybody did a different colorway?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Everyone picked. 2 of us actually had the same overdye. 2 of us used Piccadilly Circus, but again, depending on the dye lot you had, the colors that the second person took out of it are very different from mine because her dye lot was very different.
Huh. Man, it's an impressive design.
Yes, and you did a great job picking the colors to go with it. It just looks beautiful. I love I love all of them. I mean, yeah, it's just gorgeous.
What was your overdye, Cindy? Do you remember?
Monster Mash, also by Thread Gatherer. And it's got orange and kind of a blue violet and burgundy and a little bit of yellow.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know what Mom's overdye was, so I'll just tell you that.
I want to say it was Belvedere Gardens, if I remember correctly.
Could be.
Because I remember both of us working her colors for her, figuring out what threads she could use.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's a Thread Gatherer.
Yep.
Now, I hadn't noticed this when I looked at it the first time here. This little band up here, all around the edge, kind of pulls off of the corners here.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, and that is the overdyed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we could go back to Robin's and see.
So you can see my overdyed.
Yeah, okay. Right up here.
Yeah. And in the instructions it says pick an overdyed that has at least 4 distinct color families. Most of us picked ones that had more than that, and then we just focused on which ones we liked.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of them were your primary. Then there was a tertiary, and then, like I said, the poison color. And that's exactly what he calls it.
I've heard that used before, like in quilt making even. People will say pick a poison color for your to accent a quilt, to make it pop. It makes it if you don't do that,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it just all looks kind of bland.
It
I don't
looks,
know how.
well, to me, it looks nice, but it has no life.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Good way to put it. That's one of those that the Stars for the Millennium is one of those ones that I've wanted for a long time, and seeing those three finished, it's just like, oh yeah.
I think each square took between 6 and 12 hours, depending on how many threads you were layering. Oh man, does he love to layer upon layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it in some of these. It's really, there's a lot going on there. Wow.
Yeah, but it looks so good. It doesn't, I don't know. I like how they look when they're completed. Do you know what color canvas you all used? Did you use white or did you use a colored canvas?
The canvas doesn't show. It's completely covered, so it doesn't matter what you work on.
Oh, really? So it is
But
totally covered.
yes, totally covered.
Oh,
But I remember this. Someone had given me a piece of linen canvas that was big enough to do this piece on, so that's what I used.
Hmm.
wow.
And it was the right count.
It's quite a design.
Yeah.
Now I want to do it.
Yeah.
Our job here is done, Robin.
Yep. I have one started by the friend who used to own the shop. She unfortunately passed away. And I loved the colors that she decided and the threads that I pulled for her. So I am going to go do it because, yeah, and it's so different from the one I did. So different.
That is so interesting.
That'd be a nice memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did some people do these as ornaments too, not do them all as one big piece? It seems like I've seen them separate.
You could.
You certainly could.
You could, but in our group, no one did, as far as that I know of. But yeah, some of them would be kind of cool as ornaments.
See, a small project, Gary.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't always have to do large.
It's just,
right, Gary.
That's another start along.
Yeah, start
along.
along. There's just such a nice challenge in there. You can just see that every one of those offers a different challenge. And,
and this was the piece that got Cindy and I thinking so differently about our threads. Because he did give brands, but he used generic terms like medium round thread, small round thread, flat ribbon, things like that. This was the one, like I was saying to Cindy a couple weeks ago, where the dominoes, everything, the tumblers fell into place and the door opened. And I stopped getting hung up on finding the thread that the designer was using, but in the color I wanted to work with. Because I now knew there were other threads that would also work.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were the same size. And they probably came in the color I wanted.
So you took a lot out of this other than just a good stitching project.
It turned into a lecture for when I was with EGA, my EGA chapter. And then 2 weeks ago, it was a lecture with samples so they could see what I was talking about for my A and G chapter. Because we had members who I would say, well, it's about the same size as a Kreinik number 8 braid. And they would just look at me like, how do you know this? Why are you walking around just spouting all this off? And in a couple cases, it's what's Kreinik braid, because they were very new to needlepoint. So this was a way to talk about them, to help them understand why Cindy and I think about threads the way we do, and to introduce them to a whole bunch of different threads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Sandy wants to know how many different stitches are used in this piece. Do you guys know approximately?
The instruction book for this, the pattern is almost 100 pages, if I remember correctly.
Oh, a
Yeah.
few, just a few.
And he does not
Mhm.
repeat a stitch anywhere other than the borders, that frame it. Every block has different stitches in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
See, that is such a great challenge. That is such a
Oh,
great
yeah.
challenge. And then he tells you now, because the pattern is old. I mean, I know that. So those threads are
Yeah,
all different now, right?
it's
So you
23.
really,
It's 23. It's at least 23 years old. I think it came out in 99.
okay.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And yes, in the case of some of these, even though he's giving, and he put, I think, 10 different colorways in the pattern. You still would have to probably substitute some threads because Rainbow Gallery has just discontinued so many.
Yeah.
But there's so many new threads out too. I mean,
Oh yes, silk lame braid didn't exist when this was done. Silk lame braid would be awesome in this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my. Okay, think of silk lame. Okay, if you could get enough to do the border in silk lame braid,
Yeah, because
just
that's a little heavy. The silk
yeah.
lame for 18 is about a size 5 pearl cotton, so that's a little heavy. You want about an 8 in there because that's what Impressions is. It's close to a size 8.
Oh, okay. All right. So you need an 8. Okay, so what do we
And
have?
you might not want
See,
that much sparkle.
Yeah,
right?
that's true too. I was thinking that depending on because it's hard to see sparkle on photos, so you'd have to look and see where Now, did
Yeah.
you do the borders first, or did you do borders as you went along? How did you work the
No,
piece?
he has you measure in and down so far, and I think you start with the very first square,
Okay.
which is that that one in the upper left. He might have you start with the little motif in the top corner and then move into
Okay.
that. And I'm one of those people that stitches in sections. So when I had enough of the squares done, then I started working on the border.
Right.
Mm.
Because I would think it would get tedious to work on the border at the end. That's the
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, I kind of lose my mind if I do that. So over the years, I've learned to stitch to a certain point and then go back and do whatever your border is. Having done Laura Perrin pieces and even on my Hardanger, I do that.
yeah. Totally understand
What a
that.
tremendous design accomplishment though to do all that and never repeat a stitch. Wow.
Yeah, his mind's a little scary in that sense, I find. Not in a bad way.
Ah,
But
yeah.
he's another one of those designers that sees things differently, and he sees color differently than a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because even the one that he stitched on the cover of the pattern has a lot of color in it.
Uh-huh. Just gorgeous.
Okay, so
You're
here's a question.
fascinated by this, aren't you?
What's that?
Yeah.
I
You're
said you are
fascinated
just
by it.
fascinated by this, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Rick has a question. Which of the squares was the most challenging for you?
Wow. Scroll down, Gary, please. A little bit more. It was well, the one with the pinwheel was hard, was tough.
Here,
Yeah,
bottom left.
that one was a little tough. They all were about the same, equal. I mean, there were a few that were a little bit easier because you didn't have quite as many layers to deal with. Well, when you have a lot of layers, sometimes it gets hard to find your holes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
so much depth in them, though.
Mm-hmm.
It really beautiful stuff. And this is a
Yeah,
teaching
'cause you've got,
piece, right? This was a teaching piece. Whoops.
he did teach it before he released it. I know that, but I don't know if he did it privately through shops, or I don't remember it being at either seminar.
Oh, so he did
I
release it,
don't think he taught this at seminar.
so it's still available or might be available retail then?
Oh,
Should be.
there, I believe the A&G auction has a couple copies in it.
Okay.
But yes, it is still available
And you
because
might
I
be able
have
to
run
get it
across
from
this.
him.
What's that,
Yeah.
Cindy?
I said you might be able to get it from him.
Oh,
And I forget what shop he has a shop.
Yeah, it's
I'll
in New
see if I can
Jersey, but I
find the
can't
link.
yeah, because I'd buy it. Boy, I'll tell you, I'd buy that right now.
Yeah.
Is
Me
he,
too.
Cindy, is he the Edwardian needle?
Yes.
Okay.
That's his shop.
That's his shop in New
Edwardian
Jersey,
needle.
if I remember correctly.
Because I've written to him a couple times about doing a show and never heard a word. So, but I never had the Edwardian needle as an option. So maybe I'll try that. Because I really would like to do a show with him.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
And there's another, well, and later on in the photos, there's another piece that he collaborated with someone on,
Uh-huh.
which is really cool.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's whoops. I keep doing that. Let's move on. Let's try the next one here. Because we got a bunch of them.
This is Teneriffe, and I learned to do that at a Spirit of Cross Stitch Festival here in Des Moines. These four are my designs because I was asked to teach this. In fact, I was asked to teach it for the EGA chapter in the Quad Cities a long time ago.
A long time ago. Mm.
Yeah. And when I teach, I come up with my own designs.
You got to help me.
Um,
What's Teneriffe? I don't know that.
Teneriffe is a needle lace, and there are two types that you can do. This is the one that I call the durable or the wearable one, because I did a boatload of t-shirts and sweatshirts and tote bags with similar motifs on them. You take a piece of plastic canvas, a circle, you put it down, you take a water-soluble marker or air-soluble, you literally put a dot in every other hole around the outside of the canvas, of the plastic canvas ring, and then you lay your ground threads. You gather them in the middle, you do a very simple over-under weaving in the center to help secure everything, and then you go off and start grouping the threads to do your design. And these were all done with Karen watercolors, just little odds and ends I had. These actually were two kits that I found left over from teaching.
No.
When I was looking for something else, they materialized about last year at some point. So I decided to stitch them up.
Wow.
Fascinating.
And it is such a durable technique when done this way that the t-shirts and the sweatshirts fell apart. The Teneriffe still looked good. And that's after being washed and dried many times.
Huh.
Interesting.
I'm planning on doing some more on some tote bags and maybe a canvas apron or two. And I will donate those to a local charity that I work for when they do their sign.
Uh-huh. Huh. I learned something.
It's
There we
just-
go. Learn something every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a needle lace, and I know how to do the other form of Teneriffe, which is a true needle lace where you make medallions and then they get joined together with other stitching.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. Oh, thanks, Sandy. Stitcher's Paradise has a chart. Thanks, Sandy. I know what I'm doing first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can even enable. I can even be an enabler remotely.
For the
How wonderful!
Robin, really, it's a pretty low bar with me. Trust
I
me.
know.
Don't pat yourself too hard on the back. That wasn't a big accomplishment.
No, I do it. I do it with Cindy all the time. So believe me.
Yeah.
Our friend who had the shop when she was alive, she used to laugh because she would every so often say, "Oh, I heard that giant sucking sound as you reeled someone in."
Uh-huh. Yep. All right, this one.
Funny.
Well, besides needing to be ironed, which I didn't do because I'm not sure what I'm going to turn it into yet. This is chicken scratch.
Oh.
And it is a technique that started in the Depression when there wasn't a lot of money or resources, but mainly farm women wanted something a little decorative. It's done on gingham. It uses a lot of road stitches, like all the white. That's all road stitches. You have a choice. You can either I could have done orange in the white squares, but I chose to do white in the orange squares.
Mm-hmm.
These are my patterns because I had done a few from patterns that I had. And I just went to the web and found some quilt block patterns that I knew I could very easily turn into chicken scratch. That's the pinwheel. The other one is the spools. That's called 4 decks because it's based on the playing cards. And what I did that was very different was I introduced an overdyed thread to it.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, if you outline it in white, then you do all your filling in the solid color that matches your gingham. Okay. But I wanted to see what did it look like? Was it too busy? Was it okay? Did I even like it? And I just thought it was really cool. Yeah. And it added a lot to the piece. Now, this one happens to be done all in pearl cotton, in a size 8 pearl cotton.
Mm-hmm.
See, now, I've never tried that technique. I know Mary Corbett has done it kind of more in like a traditional way, what I think of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
most people. Go ahead, Beth.
I was just going to say, this is very unusual.
Well, when I get comfortable with the technique, then I sometimes will push the boundaries. What happens if? How about if I try this? Because at worst, if I don't like it, I take it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
and
go ahead.
It's a simple technique, but you've done it so effectively. I just love using the overdyed in it.
Yeah, and those are both, the overdyes are both Valdanis.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I have found a shop here in the U.S. that has all the Valdani. Every color they make in all of their lines. In fact, they had lines I didn't even know about until I visited that shop on the web.
I don't want to know the name of that shop.
I'll send it to Cindy and she can send it to you to torture you.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. Just what I need for my thread addiction.
I have a lot of well, the first place I saw Valdani was in a quilt shop in Amana. And I bought the ones that were most interesting to me, which at the time were the loudest ones. They do solids. They do some that are very subtle, almost monochromatic. And the one with the orange and lavender in it, I have done on a piece of overdyed linen. I did a piece of Hardanger. Overdyed linen that was overdyed in those colors. It was a beautiful match. The linen and the threads were bought at very different times. But it was one of those things when I looked at the linen, I knew I had a thread at home that was going to work beautifully on it.
Now, when you do chicken scratch, it's a technique on cloth that is designed to be used, right? I mean, it's like
Yeah,
towels
gingham
or you know,
aprons.
yeah,
Every grandmother in the world has had at least one gingham apron given to her on Mother's Day.
yeah.
And I remember my mother doing this technique on aprons to give to the grandmothers.
Mm-hmm. So, all
Um,
right. So then, for if we're going to have it on things that get worn and used and washed, then are you doing something on the back side to make sure those threads don't come out, or does normal burying of thread ends still hold up?
I tend to flip over on this, so I'll run 5 or 6 and then flip over and come back the other way, and that'll do it.
Okay.
I've learned with other techniques that that's quite effective.
Okay.
This is one though that you are allowed to make a knot if you want to.
Mm-hmm. Sure is effective.
Because it's on cotton fabric. I work it in a hoop. It's one of the few things that I
Needle is used in chicken
I want
scratch.
to turn this into a hot.
Okay,
What was that, Beth?
sorry. I was wondering what type of size needle do you use?
I use a tapestry 24 because it's easy enough to thread the pearl cotton on.
Oh.
I try not to use cruel needles. I don't like taking blood out of my stitching. I
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We forget that some needles actually are very sharp, and when you pick up those sharp ones, you used to blunt stuff. Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah.
Robin, that is the 1/8-inch gingham, right? That you
Yes,
use?
because it's the one that's commonly available, and I believe it's the 8 to the inch. Yeah. Yeah, I just walked into Joann's and picked a half a yard of 5 or 6 different colors, and I've stitched on all of them and given quite a few pieces away. And I've got 3 or 4, including this one, upstairs, rolled up, waiting for me to figure out what exactly do I want to do with them.
Okay, so Josie wants to know how many strands of thread.
It's a single size 8 pearl cotton, but you can do this with floss. And there you would use 3.
Okay. I go with a pearl. Yep.
It's faster.
Yep. Less to deal with. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. All right. Now this one here.
Hardanger. Probably my first love, to be very honest. A long time ago, I had a chance to go take a class with Linda Driscoll, a weekend with Linda Driscoll through the local shop where I was living.
Uh-huh.
And that's where I learned how to do it. And I learned because I liked mixed technique samplers, and a lot of them had this in it. Had a motif at the bottom, think cross and patch.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the shepherd's bush in the early days.
Mm-hmm.
Victoria sampler, So I went and learned how to do it. This is on a pale green linen, and it uses an overdyed pearl cotton for both the cluster blocks, the blanket stitch, as well as the filling.
Mm-hmm.
It was Aaliyah's pearl cotton, and again, this is the line that was discontinued 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I knew I had enough in my stash to do a piece like this.
Okay, I think Sandy has a question about the chicken scratch. She asks, is there any color that's better than others for this technique?
No, it really is personal preference. I've stitched on black and white, and I because that's what someone wanted, and I said, fine, you're a friend, and I'll do it on black and white. They're not colors I'm drawn to, but they all work. Um, I've done pale pink, pale greens, lavender. Lavender is a wonderful one. And I know if you look on the web, you're going to find quite a few done on red and white, which is a very traditional colorway.
Look at those dove's eyes that you've
I
got.
know. That's what I was looking at. Yep.
Janice loves one of her books, Her Points for Perfection.
Mm-hmm.
I still go back to those every so often.
What's the book?
Janice Love. It's either, I think it's Her Fundamentals Made Fancy. So it's her second one. She's got Basics and Beyond, and then Fundamentals Made Fancy. And those are the two main technique books that she's done.
Okay.
Then I have a couple others by her.
Because I haven't bought a book in a while, so,
Yeah, you need a new one.
Yeah.
You don't have those already?
No, I don't know what's wrong with me. You think I must get sloppy in my old age.
This is a technique I've taught a few times, and I've told my current guild chapter if I have if I have at least 3 people interested, I will teach. I will teach it again.
Uh-huh.
Yes, the first time you cut, it's terrifying. It honestly is. I'm not going to tell you it's not. I broke out in a cold sweat.
Yep, I remember the first time I cut too. It's like, oh no, it's gonna come all apart. Nope.
Well, it's just you've done all this stitching,
Yep,
and now you're going to take a pair of scissors to it.
I know.
And now not only do I cut, but when friends of mine are doing Hardanger and they screw up the cutting, I usually take it and fix it. I can honestly say, and I tell my students this, I've made just about every mistake you can make in cutting with Hardanger. Some of the fixes are worse than starting over. I will be very honest in that one. But it also makes you understand that it can be fixed.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, okay, here's one, not to find fault with your work here because it's gorgeous, but like where you cut the threads and the little nubs there, if you obviously you cut them as close as you can to the cluster block, but do you take the time to go in there with a needle and fold those back, or do you just cut them close and like in this instance and don't mind if a little nub shows up?
I leave them.
Okay.
I don't mind, because if you look at a lot of Hardanger, you're going to see those.
Yeah.
It is the natural way to do it. You can minimize them a little bit when you go to cut, as long as you've got your bottom tip up. If you push a little bit against the block and then release it and cut, it minimizes them.
Oh, okay.
I do, but even so, and that's the technique I tend to use, but you will still get a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Because these aren't offensive at all, and when I've done it, I've felt like I had to go in with a needle and flip them all back under the cluster block, and that just sucks up a lot of time.
No.
So you just push on that cluster block and then clip
a little bit before, yeah.
Then let it spring out and cover it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, that's in one of the Janice Love books. I know that.
Well, I got to get that book, Beth.
I know. All right. So Sandy wants to know, what's the base fabric for Hardanger?
I tend to work a lot on linen. Now I have worked on traditional Hardanger fabric, which is a 22 count fabric, very similar to Aida or Ada. But I like linen because it comes in so many more colors. I have done my first piece, my learning piece was white on white, and that's the only one I've ever done. And that's the traditional Hardanger colors.
Right.
But Cindy will tell you, this is actually a very subtle and subdued piece compared to some of the ones that she's seen.
Oh, yeah.
I really like this overdye, though. I really like the effect you get here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Valdani over
Very nice.
dyes would give, in fact, they have one similar to this. Will give you something very comparable.
Uh-huh.
And their threads, their pearl cottons are really nice to work with.
Beautiful. Holy smokes, we
All
got
right.
to move along here. This is.
Okay, and Rose has a quick
Gary,
question.
I can always come back and do a second show.
Okay. You may have to.
That's
Okay?
good.
Because you don't have all my techniques here either.
Oh, okay. All right, then
Oh,
then
see?
then you're on the list. All right.
All right, and Rose has a quick question. Do you teach any live online class?
I'm not set up to do that. I have done, again, within our guild chapter when we do remote meetings, or we've got a couple members that will Skype in with us. Yes, then I'm very cognizant, and I will show the class first, and then turn and show the camera. But no.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Going to move on to the towels.
Pattern darning. So much fun. It really is. And again, these were given away to the charity, to the nonprofit that I'm volunteering with. And you've got Christmas trees on one and then a nice wreath on the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike Huck work or Swedish weaving, where you're always working on top of the fabric, this one you literally go over, under, over, under. Cindy uses this technique a lot to do backgrounds on canvas.
Oh, okay.
And what's neat on those is that had I photographed the back, you would see the opposite. So the wreaths would be in white on those.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it is a truly reversible technique. And again, worked in pearl cotton, so it's all machine washable and dryable. A size 5 pearl on a 14 Ada insert.
Yeah.
What a
And
nice
then
way
this-
to use those, though, because I see a lot of them sometimes where they're, they'll come up in like stash sales or whatever, and you're like, okay. Oh, and what
Pattern darning
the
along with
technique?
this is Swedish weaving or Huck weaving.
Okay, let's back up. This is pattern darning here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because that yeah. So yeah, this is pattern.
Yeah. So there
darning.
you're literally going over so many, under so many, coming back up, going over so many, under. Yeah.
And then this is.
And then Swedish or Huck weaving. And it's called that because traditionally it was worked on huckabuck fabric, which is very hard to find now. This again is another dish towel with an 14 count Ada insert. This one is worked all on top of the fabric. So Ada, because of the way it's put together, has floats. And what you're catching are the floats on the top.
Okay.
And I put this in here to show that you can successfully put a pattern with a patterned towel for some of these techniques.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you choose the pattern carefully.
Yeah, this works very nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That Huck stuff that you should be able to. Nordic Needle used to have kits. I haven't checked. Are they still doing online sales?
No, they've closed down completely now.
Completely now. Yeah. 'Cause I remember when they closed the store.
As far as sales, you can still get access to the Save the Stitches and some of that.
Uh-huh. Because that was a destination shop at one time. This is really pretty. Really works out.
Yeah.
My favorite patterns come from Japan for this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really.
The 2 books that I use the most. These make great shower gifts, wedding gifts. It's very quick and easy to do.
Uh-huh.
And so this is a technique like the pattern darning that I don't mind giving away. because I don't have 40 hours invested in it.
Right, right. Exactly. Yep.
Right.
And
Okay.
they are very durable and washable.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
these are
Her
towels
mother
that are
has.
meant to be used.
Yeah, yeah. Her mother has a couple sets that I've given her that are still holding up, and they're going on 20 years easily.
Oh my.
Yeah, so do I.
Oh. Hmm. Okay. All right. This one.
Laurel Birch, Dangy.
Oh,
This was a piece that I knew when I bought it. I already knew what I was going to be doing for some of the stitches, and that's
Yeah.
the way I am with painted canvases. I need to already be formulating what threads, what stitches before I'll spend money because they're expensive.
Yeah.
And when I looked at that purple flower, I knew I had an orange thread at home that was going to work great because it was painted as orange on that canvas.
Uh huh.
And I had orange beads that I could use for the middle because there was an orange stripe in the middle.
So you were
wow.
down the path before you paid the money for the canvas.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I love
Very
that. I
nicely
love the
done, though.
mat. You know, the mat and the frame just are perfect for this.
We've trained our framer well. There's a companion piece that matches it, and the only thing besides the fact that it's a Laurel Birch with the flowers, the frame is exactly the same. The mat is different on the other one. This is
Okay.
kind of an apricot color, and it was perfect, and it played well with the frame. And the two of them side by side look very good together.
Hmm.
There's couching on here. There's beading. There's some surface embroidery, obviously, because those are lazy daisies.
Yeah.
You know, stitch the bottom and then use the photograph or the photocopy to go back and place what needs to be put on top.
Mm-hmm. Worked out great. Nice.
Very
Okay.
nice.
This one.
Oh.
This one. I gotta have this one.
Uh-oh.
It is Paw Printings is the designer.
Who?
Paw Printings, PAW, PRINTINGs.
Okay.
And it's probably after Hardanger, my favorite thing is to do mixed technique samplers. So there's
That's
That
hem
is just
stitching, there's
stunning.
fold work, there's all kinds of stuff going on in this one. The use of the overdyed is mine. The original pattern doesn't call for that. That's the other thing. If you haven't figured out, I tried to sneak those in wherever I can get away with them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Is there trestle stitch in that thing?
Yeah.
You know, oh, I thought so.
Very
Very
stitched
cool.
pattern. There's some pattern darning in there. Those are the blueberries were originally stitched, and there were a lot of quarter and half stitches, and I went, Nyeh. Just Another Button Company had blue buttons that were the perfect size, and that's what I used in those bands.
All right.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So I did the black work, and then I sewed the button on.
Brilliant.
I just love this piece. It's just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely well executed too, but it's just a beautiful design.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Oh,
Well, it's
yeah.
going to the Iowa State Fair, so we'll see what happens.
Nice. Very nice. Okay. Rose wants to know, can a newbie do it on their own? Meaning this piece.
Some of it, yes. The hem stitching,
Oops.
it doesn't hurt to have a class. Um, but there may be some good videos out there.
Yeah.
Yes. Some of those
I'll be
stitches
okay in a
are
minute, folks. Yeah.
And that's just another version of the same one. I didn't know which one you'd prefer to put in.
Well, I wanted both because this you can get closer up and see the.
Okay. The basket is stitched in white trebizon.
oh, okay.
Yeah. And there you can see the blueberries, the stitched with all the quarter and half stitches. Gary, if you can't tell, I don't do a lot of cross stitch anymore.
That's okay.
It's not my favorite technique.
Yeah.
That was very well done. Very
Man,
well done.
this band right through here, just I can't take my eye off. It's just beautiful.
It's actually a four-sided stitch with a bead in the middle.
Yeah.
And the
Okay.
four-sided stitch is what's gathering the cloth, the fabric threads.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see.
Oh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well done. What a great idea.
It's
And
just
I
beautiful.
I
don't
think
think I changed
the
any.
drawn thread bands would be hard for somebody who doesn't know how to do it. I think it would be hard for them to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's part of it too is because it's another cutting technique.
Right.
Right.
What I liked about this one though is that instead of reweaving the ends into your border, they did basically a large cluster block and satin stitch. And when you're going to do that, a little thing that I took away from doing some filet lace, which uses that a lot, if you do a back stitch underneath it, since you're covering 4 threads, if you do it down the middle and you pull really tight, it helps secure those threads even more that are underneath that.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, because I noticed you had that on both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was the designer's choice.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah, this was
know.
the one of the collection for me. Really
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I'll look and see if I still have the pattern. I don't tend to keep my patterns, but I'll look and see if it's still here.
It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
I don't know if it's still available.
Yeah. There's just some such a delicacy to it. It really.
It's got a lot of nice variety too with
Yep.
the different techniques, so you just don't get bored. That's the fun thing. You do a band and you can move on to the next band.
Not only that, but when you finish a band, you have a sense of accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Got to keep moving.
So we talked about Tony Maneri earlier. This is a unique collaboration between Jean Hilton and Tony Maneri. He met her at, I want to say, a seminar somewhere. And she did, so the squares, the 5 squares that are in here, those are from Jean Hilton's Little Guys. She did 9 of those, so there's 18 squares total. And Tony liked them so much, but he wanted to do something else with them besides have them be little squares.
Mm-hmm.
So the corners and the rectangles around the center block, I call them bridging. He designed those.
Huh.
He designed those to tie 5 of the little guys together.
Uh-huh.
And the only instructions that came were get an extra skein of the overdyed you're using, and then make sure you have 1 or 2 skeins of a light and a dark, or a medium and a dark, that work well with the threads you've used in your little guys. This is all, my overdyed is stained glass, which is the Karen watercolors. This is stitched on Zweigart's, their overdyed canvas that was available. This one's called Traumatized Toad because the overdyed has a little bit of that lime green in it. The two silks, the dark lavender and then the blue and the green, those are Glorianas. And then everything else is Rainbow Gallery, I would say, yeah. And beads. And I'm getting ready to stitch a second one in a very different colorway.
Oh.
Using 5 different little guys.
Oh, so you have all the squares, so you could just put them in as you want them.
Right. I have all 9 of her little guy leaflets.
Oh.
And each of them has 2 squares on it. So I've picked another 5. And I'm going to use the Karen's watercolors Ambrosia.
Okay.
And that has a butter yellow, a soft sage green, and a magenta is the best way to describe it. It's not really a purple and it's not really a pink.
Uh-huh.
And I am waiting for the three silks that I want to use for the magenta to come in.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Very cool. Yeah, that'll be fun to see a different colorway with this. I mean, it's gorgeous this way, but what a great way to use Jean Hilton's designs and play with it.
Yeah, and his I know the little guys are still available, and his Tony Maneri's bridging pattern, as I call it, is called Rockaway. And I don't know if that's still available.
Mm-hmm.
But again, he used a lot of Jean Hilton stitches. You know, there's a ton of crescents and Amadeus in there. So.
Yeah, there is. All over the place. Yep.
Yeah.
Just to keep busy.
They're fun to do. I think all those are just so much fun to do.
Get them in there right and just makes you happy.
Yep. Okay.
That was the pole work class. My A&G chapter requested to learn how to do pole work, and I said, fine, I'll do it, but I want to teach you on linen because it's easier to learn to do it on linen.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've done it on canvas. And so this was the piece that I designed, and when I designed Cindy charts, because she has the software, which is great, and I happened to have a 2.5-inch covered button hanging out in the room where my stitching stuff is. And I'm like, ooh, let's put it on that.
That's a nice little design, though, to learn.
Yes. And it the 3 basic stitches that so many pulled work designs are based on: an eyelet, a pulled satin stitch, and a 4-sided that's done as a pulled stitch, not a decorative stitch.
Yeah, very nice.
And this is also one of the categories in the Iowa State Fair, is in the counted thread division. They have a pulled thread category.
I
like pulled thread. It's relaxing.
When you do your eyelets, do you use an awl to open the hole up, or do you just pull the threads to open it?
On canvas, I use an awl or my laying tool, a larger needle. On linen, no. On linen, I have good enough tension that I don't need to start it.
Okay. That's just a cute little thing. Whoops, I did it again. All right, last one.
Now those should look a little familiar to you.
Yes.
They're somewhat familiar. I created a monster. I one day decided to do some kits that I purchased a long time ago when I went to Denver with Dee and Cindy, and liked them, but they were a little too sedate. So then I stitched those patterns again using things with stronger contrast. My guild saw them, they got very curious, and they decided they wanted to learn how to do this on perforated paper. So these were the two that I designed that they could do.
Mm-hmm.
They're cool.
And perforated paper is it's just kind of fun to stitch on. And like Cindy, I know I've done more than a dozen of different patterns and different designs, and lifted parts of a pattern to do these. So.
Yep, they're neat.
And,
yep. All right.
Very nice.
Well, now that we know there's more to be had, so yeah, you definitely got to come back now. We got to have more.
Yeah,
Put everybody back on the screen. Yeah.
Oh.
You have no idea.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's dangerous, huh?
Well, remember what our late friend Rosemary said. Oh, I stand back. I hear that giant sucking sound.
Well, let's see. You've already cost me at least 2 charts and a book, maybe 2 books.
Yeah.
So it was an expensive hour. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well played.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good job. Good job.
And Beth's being quiet, but she already has a list too. I can tell you right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm thinking about them.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right.
I've got 5 or 6 things already kitted and waiting whenever the urge strikes.
Yeah. Now you have a bunch going to the fair?
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. In 2 different categories. I do counted thread and then I do the needlepoint for my canvas work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many are you sending to the fair, Cindy?
2 or 3.
Oh, okay.
Because I've been working on pumpkins.
Yes. Yes. So the fair must be pretty active in needlework then, huh?
Not as active as we'd like to see in the recent years.
Yeah.
It's really diminished.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will be teaching Make It Take It class, and I have models for those that I'll bring over and give to the superintendent when we drop our exhibits off. And we'll set the day that I'm going to go teach.
Yeah. Neat. All right.
Well done.
I think we're going to call it right there. That was so much fun. Thanks, Robin.
You're welcome.
You're on the short list to return. Get some more pictures together.
Well, after the fair, we might want to revisit how some of the pieces that you saw tonight did, because some of them are going to the fair.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The blueberry sampler is on the list for sure.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. That would be great.
And the Hardanger piece. Yeah. The leaves.
Okay. Yeah, we can learn. All right. Yeah. We're going to call it there. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Now, Sunday, remember, Leslie Rinchin Wangmo is the guest. Get this book, and she'll be with us next week. Robin, that was a blast. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. And,
all right. Okay. All right. Thanks to everybody. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.